You know, the thing I love about business is that it's always evolving. It's never static. And I think if you're stagnant, then there's something wrong. Yeah, you're either growing or you're dying. Think about a lot of the businesses that do last. It is because they put people first. And it's because they put their customers first or they put their employees first that they are able to grow so big. And I always say that it's so important to not compare yourself with other people, because comparison is a thief of joy, but to compare yourself with yourself yesterday. You know, are you better today than you were yesterday? For me, I think there is great power in being able to capture a child's attention, especially in this digital age where they probably love looking at screens and devices. And I think there is value in being able to not just entertain children, but to educate them as well. There's something that is important for my child, that I be saying yes to my child first, and then so I have to say no to everything else. In a way, you use what we would call failure as feedback.
Dr. Chloe is an academic, a creative, and a storyteller, here to spark ideas and ignite your business journey. I don't have $100,000 to hire Dr. Chloe to do.
I'm not that expensive.
To do balloon twisting.
My husband was really the biggest support while the kids were young, because he was the main person taking care of them while I'm out twisting balloons for other people's children. And remind yourself that you are enough. You know, you may not be where you want to be yet, but you are on your way to getting there.
Dr. Chloe, thank you so much for making time to have this conversation. I have seen your TED Talk, I have seen your work, and I love what you do. I'm very keen to understand how you do what you do, but also unearth some of the stories that make you you. If I told you about a decade ago that you would move from being a scientist to be a fantastic balloon artist today, what would you think if I told you this about a decade ago?
Oh gosh, that never came to mind at all. Like 10 years ago, I was a medical researcher, and I've just had my son. I think he would have been 1.5 years old. So I will be busy researching and parenting and just learning the ropes about being a mom. And so the idea of twisting balloons, having a business, all those sort of things would have never come across my mind. It's just interesting how things can change for you in a decade, and or things that you can achieve in a decade as well. I think it's and you can never really tell. I think they always talk about planning your life ahead, 5, 10, 20 years in the future. But as much as you can plan, you can't plan for unexpected circumstances and unexpected happenstances as well. So like for me, how I got into balloon twisting was about 6 years ago. My church needed someone to twist balloons at a community event, and no one put their hands up. And so I thought, maybe I'll give it a go. So I went to Kmart, bought a pack of balloons, went on YouTube, as you do when you want to learn something new, made my first balloon dog, and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And then I kept looking for other videos and tried different things. And I was like, and I just got hooked. I really got hooked into balloon twisting. And so, this is really a pathway that I've never envisioned for myself. Like when I was getting into science or just doing university, it was all about science, and all scientists will tell you that they have this dream of winning a Nobel Prize. I had that dream too.
All scientists and all American presidents.
Oh, yeah, well,
they want the Nobel Peace Prize.
That's right. So, I mean, we have all these grand ambitions, which I think a lot of times are placed upon us by society, really. Because if there wasn't a Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel Prize, then what would you be aiming for, isn't it? And so in this case, I guess, I was really deep into my scientific or academic career. And the idea of, having my own business, twisting balloons, making kids happy really wasn't on the radar at all.
Tell me about your journey to discover what I'm going to call for now a hidden talent. And how did you unearth it? I understand YouTube played a huge part and Kmart did some work also.
Well,
but how did you unearth this talent?
Oh, I mean, I didn't think it was a talent to begin with, really. It's like what I was trying to do was really to meet my church's need and to serve the community by doing that, because they needed a person to twist balloons. But I think what happened was my desire and longing to always want to learn more and to always develop some sense of mastery over a talent or a skill kind of kicked in. So for me, it's like, okay, I can learn how to make a dog, a sword, all the simple stuff. But, what else is there that I can learn? And so for me, it was really trying to become an expert in that. And because I had that interest, I was interested in it. I found it fascinating. And I was also getting the satisfaction of making people happy with my balloons. And you don't really get that immediate instant gratification and fulfillment when you're doing research, really. When you do your research, you come across, failed experiments or rejected papers, and it takes maybe 10 to 15 years before you can see the fruits of your research. But when I'm doing balloon twisting, I make a balloon, in 2-3 minutes, I give it to a child, and they light up. And I get that instant joy from their joy. And so I think, when I was getting that feedback, that positive feedback, it made me want to be better as well, because I know I can do so much more. I've seen so many amazing balloons that other internationally well-known balloon artists have done. It's like, oh my gosh, there's actually this added advanced level that you can get to with balloons. And so for me, it's not just being stagnant where I am. I discovered that I enjoy this. I think I have a bit of a talent in this, and I can nurture this talent. And that's where I started to invest in myself. So investing in courses. I mean, there's actually a balloon artist college, just so you know. Yeah, balloon artist college. And I invested in myself, invested in learning the different techniques that's available, the different ways of thinking around balloon artistry, and really challenging myself by also creating balloon sculptures that are a little bit bigger than what you would get at a party, because I do balloon orders as well and deliveries, and they're usually a lot bigger and they take a little bit more time. And really, it's the idea of challenging yourself to improve yourself. And it's really not staying in that stagnant phase of, being comfortable where you are. And for me, I think if I tell you all my stories, I just like to challenge myself and try new things. So even with my balloon artistry, I know that there's still a lot more that I can unearth. I would consider myself still partly amateurish in some ways, more because I know what can be done in balloon artistry, and I'm not there yet. There are people who make balloon sculptures that are as big as a shopping mall concourse. So Lily Tan, she's a Guinness World Record holder for balloon artistry. Like, she made this big robot that can fill the whole shopping mall concourse. And she's actually she does balloon exhibitions every year in Singapore. And next year she's gonna be doing another one. And I'm actually joining her next year. So I'm really excited, to fly to Singapore next year to be able to learn about how can you create things that are bigger than life.
Because of your background in research and academia, what has learning this new skill taught you about learning? And the reason I'm asking this is you spoke about that feedback loop. And I think, again, I grew up in Sri Lanka, where learning's pretty important. But the feedback loop, I've only recently begin to understand that if you are learning something new and you're getting some feedback from the audience, from someone, then you sharpen your skills more. What has this experience in balloon artistry taught you about learning?
Oh gosh. I mean, I was an absolute beginner when I started balloon artistry 6 years ago. Everyone starts off with the balloon dog, single balloon, and I think when it comes to learning, it's having a really beginner's mindset and knowing that, you're just starting out here, and that's fine. And you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to look ugly for a bit before they're going to look pretty. And being able to accept that as well and use that as part of the learning journey too. Because as you start creating and as you start developing your skills, that's where you actually build that muscle to be better at what you do. So like an example is, it probably would have taken me a lot longer to twist balloons when I first started. But because I have done it so much over the last 6 years, I've developed a really strong muscle memory that I can talk to you while I'm still twisting balloons. And people are like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And still remember the designs and still talk to me at the same time. And it's because you've practiced at it. And so I think for any person who is starting on a new learning journey, it's important that they have that open beginner's mindset, a mindset that is also a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Knowing that you can learn something, or you can figure out ways to improve yourself in whichever skill or expertise that you want to develop, and that part of that learning journey will come with failures as well. And so, in a way, you use what we would call failure as feedback. And that feedback will feed back into, I know that's a bit of a punny word, but that feedback will then feed into how you develop as an expert in that area that you're interested in. And I mean, the other thing with learning is it's not a solo sport too. So, I actually am very fortunate that I'm surrounded. There's a lot of groups that talk about balloons, share their skills or share their tips around how to do different things with balloons or different sculptures. And I think being part of a learning community also helps you develop your skills too. And they also can give you that feedback as well. And so what is important is also being open and receptive to the feedback, because sometimes, I guess, if you're not, if you feel like if you feel like you know everything, or you're at a point you think like, I'm an expert at this, then you're less likely to be open to receiving feedback from others, or maybe even improving yourself. And really, that comes back to the idea of the fixed mindset too. Yeah, it taps into the idea that, okay, I kind of, the ego is there, and you don't want to have that ego when you're really growing, because I don't think there is a limit to the amount of learning that you can do. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of lifelong learning. Like, it's not just balloon artistry, but, learning how to be a better parent, a better husband or wife, or a better teammate if you're working. And even, for me, I had to learn a lot about developing a business and building a business too, because entrepreneurship wasn't something that I have even considered before doing balloon twisting. And so there's a lot of different aspects, that encompasses your life where there is potential for growth, but you have to be intentional about that growth.
I love the framing of the ability to learn the beginner mindset, and let's tap into that. So you turned a hobby, a passion, something you saw to help out your church with, into a business. What were those steps like? Like, what are some of those intentional steps you took to transform this from, okay, I saw this on YouTube, I'm going to help my church, to a business? What were those steps?
I actually was thinking of starting a business when I discovered balloon twisting. So about, I can't remember, maybe the year before or some sort, I actually dabbled into selling skincare. And the reason why I got into business, or even thinking about doing business, was because after I came back from my second maternity leave with my twin girls, I was told that my working hours were reduced because there were cuts to grant funding. And it was at that point that I realized that I cannot depend on my job as a sole source of income. I needed to have a different stream of income where it is not dependent on someone else, but I can bring in that income. And so that's how, I guess that's where the business idea came in. And then when I discovered balloon twisting, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do something with this. And so I'm going to start a business making balloons. So that's how I got started. But from the get-go, I was very clear to make sure that I delineated, business from personal stuff. And so it was important for me to set up like different bank accounts. You have a bank account that's just for business, or setting up even to make it formal, I guess, getting an Australian business name, an ABN, all those sort of things. And then as part of that, I really had to build up my business skills too. So I did a lot of courses, like listened to a lot of YouTube videos and those things. But also following and reading a lot of books around building a business, and reading a lot of books about sales and marketing. And then from there also building up or claiming digital space. So, if you think of a business name, quickly buy the website domain before someone else gets it. Getting all the social handles, from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever you want to be on a platform, just get those handles first. And then, as I was developing the business, I also needed to work out an accounting system as well. And so really, really setting in place the systems and processes to make it run like a business. So this is not a hobby where, you're not just doing it for fun. They're buying stock, doing a few things, and then that's it, but and I think a lot of businesses really is an organization of systems and processes that allow you to do the work that you enjoy so that you are free to serve people without having to worry about all the little things that can come in and creep in your business that can take you away from actually working on the key things that make you happy in the business.
Is that your born mindset? Because what I heard you say to me was that you have a structured way of, okay, I'm going to register the business name, I'm going to set up the accounts. Then you also told me about claiming digital space. So that is not just structure, that's a lot of action also. Is that how you're wired, that you'll have a structure, then you will action those things systematically? Is that something that comes naturally to you?
Oh, absolutely. I love to-do lists. I do live by my to-do lists. And I think it's important to because I guess in the end, overall, I guess you have an overarching goal, and part of reaching that goal are many steps to get to that goal. And so as part of moving yourself closer to the goals, you have to work out those steps and then take action on those steps. Because you can plan all you like, Honestly, I actually didn't even have a business plan when I first started, but I knew that there were a few key steps that I needed to do before I can get started. But then as you develop, as you learn, as you work in the business, you figure out what are the different things that can then help you get better at it, get more clients, how can you serve people better. All of those things kind of add in, and then you figure out what else you need to do. So, the thing I love about business is that it's always evolving. It's never static. And I think if you're stagnant, then there's something wrong. Yeah, you're either growing or you're dying. And so in this case, for me to keep growing the business, is always going to be new steps. And I was like, okay. And of course, new ideas come along too. So then you have to kind of factor that in too. But yeah, no, I'm a very structured person. And I think that probably comes from my academic background too. Because, when we're doing experiments, we have to follow a protocol. Yeah, if you don't follow step 1 or to step 10 in order, your experiment's going to fail. So we have to make sure, I guess for me, it's important to have a list of things that I need to take action on, but also to prioritize them by what is most important right now, and use that as a way to guide me in what I do.
I wrote a set of sentences once that said that thinking about doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Planning to do the thing isn't doing the thing.
Yeah.
Telling your mom and dad that you want to do the thing isn't doing the thing.
Yes.
Finding out how other people have done the thing and failed that it isn't doing the thing. Doing the thing is doing the thing.
Yes.
Right?
Amazing. Yes.
What's the time frame? Tell me about the time window that you said, I'm going to set up this business.
Yeah.
To when you actually got started, to when you actually launched.
Oh, interesting question. It wasn't long. It wasn't long at all. So I remember it was February 2019 where, I saw this request. I went out, bought some balloons. I'm like, oh, I think I can do something with it. I think it was quite instantaneous. It was within the same day, really. And then it was March 2019 that I launched. So within a month, I got everything going, claimed everything. And I think on that day, it was like, oh, I've got all my social handles, but I was still hesitant to press the publish. And I think, and I was like, oh, well, what if I fail? What if it's not going to work? It's like, oh, well, never mind. Let's just do it anyway. So I think, sometimes in spite of the fear, you just have to give it a good go. And I think if you've done your best and if things don't work out, then at least you can say that you've tried and you can rack it up as experience too. And a good story to tell.
Great story. You mentioned failure. You mentioned, what if I fail? Tell me about fear and failure. How do they play a part when you are thinking of starting a new business?
Well, I mean, the statistics are not very positive when it comes to businesses and their longevity. So they talk about how, a lot of businesses actually fail within 2 years of starting. And so I think people are probably quite wary of the risks that might come with business because it's very unpredictable. Like even your income, your revenue, you don't know when that's going to come. It's really dependent on other people who find you or you reach out to book you and to get the work done so that then you can get paid. And so there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to business. And that uncertainty plays into the fear that people will have because humans like things to kind of work out all the time, or at least they know what's going to happen next. And that's why a lot of people work. They go to a job, a 9-to-5 job, because, they know that they do the work, someone's going to pay them. Yeah. And that happens every day, Monday to Friday, without ceasing, unless, you got terminated. That's a whole different story. But, but in general, you get that certainty from your paycheck. But with businesses, it's very different. It's you don't get that security. And when you first start, you may not even get paid because a lot of the times the money that you put into the business is either into the growth of the business or into buying equipment or paying all the expenses that come with businesses. It's like nearly 50%, and if you're in a restaurant, even worse. So there's a lot of things that come into play when it comes to running a business, and I think that's why there's a lot of hesitancy to try. But I think there is a lot of freedom that comes with running your own business because in some ways you then are the captain of the ship and you can decide how you want to take the business and how you're going to serve people and also who you can reach out to as well. And I find that level of freedom is actually quite fulfilling. I mean, it can be challenging, of course. There's still a lot of challenges that we face in business, but having that freedom, I think, is and I don't know, it gives you a level of satisfaction that I don't think I can find in a 9-to-5 job per se. And because, my work makes people happy, I think that also helps. When you're able to make people happy, you get that instant gratification that, you're doing a good job and you're serving people in a positive way too. So I think it's important to think about, for people who are thinking of wanting to go into business, is why do you want to go into business in the first place? Is it because, you just want to earn the money, just build wealth in that sense? Or are you using it as a way to live out your purpose and calling so that you can serve those people that that you really want to serve? And I think that is actually a key thing. Because if you think about a lot of the businesses that do last, it is because they put people first. And it's because they put their customers first or they put their employees first that they are able to grow so big. Because in the end, it's really not about the money, but it's about that sense of fulfillment that you can get from serving others through your work.
You spoke about your journey so far. Tell me, have you faced failure in your journey so far? What has the most painful moment looked like? And what did you learn from it?
Oh, everyone would have faced some challenges in their lifetime. Absolutely. If you're talking about business specifically, it may seem like a small thing, but it's a big thing for a person who has just started out as a business. This was, I think, maybe in end of 2019 or early 2020. We've been hit by COVID. I was convinced to put an ad into a not-for-profit magazine. But at that point in time, because gatherings were stopped, you couldn't go out and have parties. I couldn't do any of my work because I was very dependent on having parties, and I had to pay this ad on this page. It wasn't a huge amount, but I didn't actually have a lot of money then. I just started my business and I spent more money than I earned in terms of the income coming into the business. And I was like, oh, okay, well, is it possible, I was just trying to negotiate, is it possible maybe to pay after the publication, maybe by then I get some clients from the ad and all those other things. And this person was saying, oh, you do realize this is just a bit of a marketing gimmick, right? And that, you might not really actually get clients from this. And I'm like, okay. I mean, in my naive state, being new in business and thinking that, oh, maybe this is one way that I can definitely get clients. Honestly, that really hit me like a ton of bricks because this is money that I'm actually spending from my non-existent income to try and build this business. And you're telling me this? And so for me, it really made me think about how then will I invest my revenue? What is this going to actually help the business goals? I have to be more strategic, yeah, and I'm a bit more wary now. I'm a bit more wary now of people asking for ads and things now. So you find that I will not say yes to them usually. I've been traumatized, but it was a great lesson also in terms of I guess understanding what's the best way to put yourself out there, to put your business out there too. And so I think a lot of times when it comes to failures or challenges that I face, it's usually to do with money. And I think there's probably a lot of, what do you call it? Maybe money mindset issues, or even limiting beliefs around money that could potentially, come into play. But I think when you're aware of these things, and hopefully you can develop those strategies to make sure that you are not sucked into that negative mindset of how you manage money.
Was that also a springboard? Because I've seen you do lots of engagement on digital media.
Mm-hmm.
Was that also a springboard for you to go, no, I'm going to actually claim this space. I'm going to get more engagement in here than a print publication or a targeted specific publication that has a finite lifespan?
I mean, everyone has a phone nowadays. And everyone wants to, I mean, they spend too much time on social media, me included. It's something I'm working on as well. But the idea is, you need to go to where people are. Yeah, if your target market is mainly on Facebook, or if they're on Instagram, wherever they are, you need to be spending time with there so that you can actually reach your target market or your target audience. And so for me, I didn't think that my target market was really reading print magazines. So I guess you have to be very strategic in terms of how you advertise as well. Like, if I were to do paid ads, it would be doing paid ads on Facebook, Instagram, or Google. Like, it wouldn't be something on a print, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think it's also a sign of the times, right? That, that's where most people are spending their time. And so you do need to be present there as well so that you can tell them about the amazing service that you have, and then they can find you.
This one is one about conquering a dragon. Whenever self-doubt kicks in, whenever that voice whispers, you're not good enough, how do you overcome self-doubt?
That's such a good one. That is a good one because I think a lot of people actually have that challenge of thinking that they are not good enough. And there's always this little voice in there that says, oh, you're not good enough. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. Like, I need to know more. Or like, other people are so much better than me, blah, blah, blah. All these sort of negative thoughts. And I actually had to deal with that, especially at the beginning of my business as well. And of course, being a beginner in balloon artistry, you compare your balloon to someone else's balloon. It's like, oh my gosh, so ugly. But but I think what's important is understanding and accepting the fact that you are on your own journey to wherever it is that you want to go. Your day one is not going to be the same as someone's day, 10,000 or whatever it is. Yeah, because if they've been in the industry a long time, obviously they've got the skills and experience to be able to be that great person that they are. But if you're just starting out, you have to give yourself that grace to accept that you're not perfect yet, but that's okay, and no one's perfect anyway. But to know that you are on your way. And I always say that it's so important to not compare yourself with other people, because comparison is a thief of joy, but to compare yourself with yourself yesterday. Are you better? Are you better today than you were yesterday? And that is the main thing. A main message that I like people to take away is, there's no point comparing with other people, because everyone have different life experiences, different ways of thinking, different upbringing. So all our stories are going to be different. And so the main thing is focusing on your own story. I always like to think of it as like, if you're in a movie, you need to be the director of the movie. Yeah, not some supporting actress or actor. Yeah, so I think that's very important. And so, being a director of the movie, I think it's important to remind yourself of all the amazing achievements that you have had. All the successes. It doesn't have to be like award-winning things, but just even little wins. I think sometimes we forget to celebrate the little wins in our life and to use that as a way to remind yourself of how amazing you are, that you have all these great skills, great strengths that you can use to serve other people as well. So, I mean, I actually had I have like a A4 paper of, all my positive qualities, all the things that I have achieved, all the things I'm really proud of, and even positive things that other people have said about me. And, if you get to the point where you're feeling so down and you just need to lift me up, look at that page of amazing things of who you are as a person and remind yourself that you are enough. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you are on your way to getting there.
That's a very powerful, practical tip that I really hope people adopt. Can I also ask, why, in your opinion, and let's tap into your scientific brain here, why, in your opinion, do most business people, when they start off a business, compare themselves to somebody else's middle or somebody else's pinnacle? Because in essence, that's the thief of joy.
Yes.
We are not comparing ourselves to somebody who's just starting. We're comparing ourselves to somebody who has a decade, maybe 2 decades of experience.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that, and how can we get better at having some joy in our lives?
Oh, I mean, it's hard not to, isn't it? Because usually they're so visible, right? And I mean, sometimes I get sucked into that too, because I think part of it is, I like to think that people who run businesses are kind of maybe a bit of an overachiever, perhaps. They just want to get things done quickly and they want to get to wherever it is that they want to go as fast as possible. But sometimes life circumstances don't allow you to scale or grow as quickly, perhaps. Or perhaps, you may have some setbacks or challenges or circumstances that can make things go a bit slower than you would like to. And I hear that a lot. And it's something that I had to grapple with myself as well. Because I was like, my business should be like earning this much by this time, blah, blah. But it doesn't really sometimes work out that way. And, it's coming back to that idea of thinking that, you're not good enough as well because you're comparing yourself with someone who has so much more experience. But it's not a fair comparison, like you said. So I think, when people start doing that, they just have to stop and just think about, maybe, use them as inspiration. As something that you can be aspiring to, as opposed to comparing yourself to. And, I think there's so much to learn from businesses who are long-standing. You're talking about 10, 20 years, right? So you can study their business model. Look at what is it that they're doing that allows them that longevity and also that growth. And from there, then you can adapt it into your own business and use that as a learning tool, really, rather than a comparison tool.
You spoke about reflection just then. You touched on a challenge you faced coming back to work after your second maternity leave. Reflecting back now with also the years of experience you have starting a business and all of those things, how would you stand up for yourself, communicate differently if that situation was in front of you today?
Yeah, so I think you're I guess touching on the fact that after I came back from my second maternity leave, I was meant to be a convener, for a course. It was an innovation and entrepreneurship course at the university I was working at. And I started off doing a lot of the work to set things up, but of course went on maternity leave, so I had to pass it on to someone else. And then when I came back, I thought the course was not running anymore. I did ask around. I was like, oh, no, we don't think it's running anymore. I was like, okay, that's a bit of a shame. I thought it was a good course, for the students. And then happenstance, I talked to a lecturer, and he happened to be lecturing in that course. I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's still running. But, 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 but I guess I was rather disappointed when I found that out, because I was quite keen to be able to take on that course again after I came back. And I mean, I did talk to my supervisor about it, and she's like, oh, I didn't realize that was happening. And then and then it's like, oh, well, I guess I didn't think of really pursuing that. People have already made their minds up about how it needs to happen. And so, for me, there was no point fighting the system in that sense. But it did open up doors for me to do other things, in the sense that because I couldn't do that, there was something else that I could do instead. Like if I were to look back, I reckon now I would have had the courage to be able to say something. Yeah, back then I was like, oh, I didn't want to, stir the pot, whatever you want to call it. But now I would say I would have more courage to be able to talk to whoever was running the course and just find out more about what happened, and what was the reasoning for how things have happened, and why wasn't I kept in the loop, or why wasn't I informed about how things are going, and just, I think, just to understand the story a bit more and the background. And then maybe, in some ways I could potentially still get an opportunity to do some work around it, perhaps. But, all of these things are like what ifs, right? And in some ways, I think I'm in a much better position now, not doing that.
Because you do things that give people joy.
Mm.
How should someone think to be comfortable that I couldn't handle the situation as best I think I could have handled it then? Now I might have a better way of handling it. But actually, this opened up new opportunities for me, because you can only connect the dots looking back.
That's right.
How can someone move forward to understand that life is life?
Oh, that's a loaded question. But it's a very good question, because I think a lot of times people look back and wish things were different. And unfortunately, it would be so nice if we were all given all the wisdom in the world at whichever point of change, or that pivot time, and being able to have all the information that we need to be able to make a decision, right? But we have limited resources, limited time, limited ability as well in some ways. And I think we have to give ourselves grace, acceptance, and also understanding, ourselves, knowing that we did our best at that point in time with the information that we have at that time. And I guess, if it's a situation where we need to ask for forgiveness from others, then now with your newfound knowledge and wisdom, you could approach that topic again, maybe with that person, and, have a discussion or have a conversation about it. But in the end, we wish we could change the past, but we can't. And so I think what's important is to learn from it, and then using that lesson to then help you to make better decisions in the future.
Now I'm going to talk about courage, because you spoke about wisdom. Most people hesitate to ask for help. You reached out to a world-famous balloon artist and asked them to mentor you.
Yeah.
Tell me about that process, but also tell me about how you built up the courage to do so.
Yeah, so the story leading to that is I was commissioned by National Gallery of Australia to create a balloon display for Patricia Piccinini's Family Day. So she's the Australian artist who created the Sky Whale and the Sky Whale Papa as well. So Canberrans would definitely know about these hot air balloons. If not, look it up. It's very interesting. And I mean, I looked at the sculptures. This was, I was just about maybe 2-3 years into balloon artistry. And I had to make the Sky Whale and the Sky Whale Papa. So they're like distorted whales. For those who don't know Sky Whale or Sky Whale Papa, they're like distorted whales with very interesting bits hanging off. And so and I have not done anything like that before, or anything of that scale. And so for me, I knew I needed help. And so that's why I looked for, who will be a good person that I can learn from in order to do this. And at that point in time, I guess I knew of Lily Tan, who is the World Guinness Record holder of, making big balloons. and and um and I mean, she did have a course as well. So I actually invested in her mentorship. So I reached out to her first, and then I said, I showed her the picture of the thing I needed to make. And I asked her, would you be able to guide me through this? And so, I mean, I invested in her mentorship, in her courses. Like, her courses also did very advanced balloons as well. So I was also picking up a lot of techniques as I was learning. Um, but for me, I guess, when it comes to asking for help, honestly, I have no problem asking for help because I know I'm not the best at everything. And I know other people, have that expertise that I probably don't even know exists. And so you don't know what you don't know until you find out from someone else who's been there and who's done all the different things that maybe you want to do. And that's why I'm a huge proponent for mentorship. When I was a scientist, I kind of approached a couple of people to be my mentors, but I didn't know how to build a mentoring relationship. So it's like just reaching out, say, hi, oh, would you be a mentor? And then that's it. We never followed up because I was never taught how to build that relationship with a mentor. But then, now that reflecting back, and somehow, I don't know how it is that, now that I've gone into business, that I decided that, okay, I'm going to be a mentor for others instead. And I think part of it is because I didn't have that good mentoring experience or relationship that I didn't know how to build. And so this was an opportunity for me to help others build that mentoring relationship and to help them along the way as well.
What's your formula? Because most people don't know how to reach out to somebody and ask. Most people stumble, or we do a really terrible attempt at it, or we get offended when somebody doesn't reply or something like that. What's your formula to reach out and get some guidance?
Oh, I guess it'll differ depending on the context, I would say. So I guess if you're at a workplace, maybe there is potentially a mentoring program, a formal mentoring program that you can be part of. So that's very straightforward. But if it's someone that you've noticed is doing something that you would like to do in the future, then you could potentially approach them and ask them if they could be your mentor. Now, I know it can be quite intimidating to reach out to someone who's a bit more senior than you are, but everyone's human. In the end, everyone is human. And if you find a good person to be a mentor, they're more likely to actually want to actually mentor you. Quite likely, they also want to give back. There is actually that huge fulfillment that comes from being able to help someone else, in their career as well. So, I mean, I think the key thing is not to expect to always be receiving all the time. You need to think about what is the value that you can also give to the potential mentor too. So it's not just about you taking. Yeah, it's a give and take relationship. And I think what's important is also being able to show that appreciation for that mentor. So, just have an initial chat first. I think it's very important not to just sort of just scare them off with saying, oh, can you be a mentor for me now? And I think it's important to build that relationship first. So get to know each other first and then see if they're interested, if they're invested in you. Because I think it's important to find someone who actually cares about you and cares about you to be able to give you the feedback that you really need to hear in order to help you in your career as well. So build that relationship first. Just get to know them over coffee. And then if you feel like, this is a person that I can definitely relate to and that I would take advice from and can give me the good advice that I need in order to progress, then, maybe then have a chat and ask, oh, would you be willing to be my mentor? And you can always set parameters around that, just say maybe for 6 months and we see how we go. It doesn't have to be like a lifelong thing, right? So I
Sounds like marriage.
Yeah, I know. It's not necessarily a lifelong commitment, no. Yeah, but I think having those parameters, I think, will make the mentor also feel more open. They'll be more open to that relationship too.
You spoke about wanting to be a mentor. You spoke about you being open to being a mentor. If somebody wants to reach out to you and work with you and learn from you, what are two primary characteristics they need to have?
So the first thing is definitely being very open to feedback. Yeah. Like I I tell it like it is. Like I'm very open with my feedback, and I do think I give constructive feedback as well. And they need to be able to willing to take it and take action on it as well. Because there's no point you asking me to be asking me to be your mentor, but I'm giving you advice, but then you don't take it. So then are you actually valuing, what I'm giving you? And if you're not valuing that, then, it's, I see that it's not going to be a relationship that's going to work. The other thing is also, from the mentoring relationships that I've had in the last few years, I think another thing that I'm really how to say I would really like from my mentees is also to show a little bit of appreciation for the time, the effort that has been put into the relationship as well. So I don't know. I think perhaps people take for granted that that a mentor's time is also quite precious. And I guess in some ways they've got to where they are because they have done a lot of stuff and they still have a lot of stuff going so that they can keep doing what they're doing, right? But then they're willing to spend that time with you or carve out that time, especially for you to help you in your journey. So don't take that for granted. I think even, in any relationship, right, if you want it to work, you have to put in the work, and you have to show that appreciation and not take it for granted. So I would say those are the two main things for me if someone were to want to spend time with me, and learn from me.
Speaking of some people that want to spend time with you, let's speak about your 3 children and husband.
And dog.
And dog, yes. You started a business with 3 children around, husband around. How do you balance the competing priorities of all of these beautiful humans and aspirational things that need your time?
Yes, I get that question a lot. It's like, how do you manage all of these things? It's like, not easy, but I think what is important when it comes to, they call it work-life balance, but sometimes it could be work-life integration, perhaps, is, what you have to identify your key values. What is it that is most important to you? And then using that as a way to set your priorities. And for me, my kids were quite young, and I was really quite steep into the building of the business as well. But it was important for me that, I was the one who still come back and cook dinner and have dinner together with the children. If they have specific activities that are happening, I want to be present for that. And so a lot of times it's working out what to say no to in a way. Yeah. So I say no to a lot of things. Like even now I'm still using that as my my barometer as to what I say yes to, because if you say yes to something, you're going to say no to something else. And for me, it's important that, if there's something that that is important for my child, that I be saying yes to my child first. And then so I have to say no to everything else. And I guess, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes when it comes to the business as well. And for me, it's really fitting it around my work, fitting it around the children's routines, the school life, home life. And then I do work at night and the evenings a lot. So it's really, and sometimes lunchtime as well if I need to. Yeah, in between my work. So it's finding those pockets of time to be able to do little bits, and then it comes back down to, what are the important things that you need to do to move the needle in your business. And so for me, I have to be very clear when I'm doing something that it's really important for the business. If it's fluff, then I need to cut it out. So it comes back to the system of thinking about things to eliminate, things to automate, or things to delegate, and using that as a way to work out things that you really should be doing or things that you can be outsourcing. So, for example, I actually have an executive assistant that helps me with a lot of my admin work and my social media right now, which is fantastic because it frees me up to do the stuff that I really enjoy, which is creating shows, delivering the service, and all those sort of things. And so, having that, having extra people helping you really makes a difference. I mean, my husband was really the biggest support while the kids were young, because he was the main person taking care of them while I'm out twisting balloons for other people's children. And so, he's done a whole lot to be able to allow me to do what I enjoy and to get me to where I am now too. So I think it's so important to have that support network, and also think about things that will make life easier for you, not just at home, but also at work. So I don't do groceries in the shops anymore, really, unless I really have to. It's all online shopping now. They just get delivered to me. And I have to thank COVID for that one, actually. I was very OCD about picking my own fruits, okay? But with that, it was fine. But also, I mean, leading to that is, developing systems and processes so that things are actually automated as much as possible. So, with my business, I have SOPs, templates, email templates, things that are already set in place. And because I've done a lot of things many times, it's kind of ingrained in me what's needed, and I don't actually have to think too much anymore around it. And having my bags ready to go, everything is all just set up nicely, so I can just pick up my bag and go, and I don't have to think too much. So really systemizing a lot of things helps a lot too.
It took me 43 years of my life and my 2 children to help me to learn to say no, because I didn't have a strong relationship with my time. How do you learn to have a strong relationship with your time in order to say no to things?
Well, everyone has the same amount of time on Earth, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and our time on Earth is limited as well. And we never know when we're going to go too. So we don't even know how much time we have on Earth.
I'll share a scary story
Oh,
that you might challenge me or enlighten me on as a scientist, but I heard somebody that I really connect with say that you've got about 4,000 weeks. Spend it wisely.
Yes.
How do you learn to say no, though? What are your metrics?
Oh, gosh. It's a very good question. I guess an example I can think of will be networking events. There's so many events that are out there. You probably get invited to lots of different ones. So there's a lot of different options that you can go to. And for me, it comes back to what's already in my calendar that I need to be doing. If it clashes with that, then, I generally say no, it wouldn't be on my calendar then. But then I also think about the value of the event. For me, I have to be very strategic in choosing the events that I do go to, because of that limited time, that we all have. You need to have that set of criteria that you want to fulfill before you say yes. And for me, the first one would be do I have my children's stuff happening at that time? If yes, then it's an automatic no. Or if I am free, I do have days off work. I do work part-time. I do work part-time. And then I'll think about the value of the event. Who am I going to meet at this event? Are they going to be people that would be would be like-minded people that that will be interested in similar sort of things, or who could be helping me advance my business goals as well. And if there are people there that I would really like to connect with, then potentially I might say yes. I guess, and then if you think about it, sometimes it's also the curiosity. If it's something that I feel very curious about, and they say, oh, this seems like a very interesting topic, I have the time for it, I think I can make it, then, I'll just go for it. Yeah. So for me, I think I also have a limit, not a limit, but how to say, I would set myself a goal of attending at least 1 to 2 networking events a month. Yeah. And I mean, it really depends on what's happening that month as well. But I think it's being intentional. We're going to come back to intentions again, and thinking about why is it important for me to attend? Why is it important for me to say yes to this thing? And I've always heard people say that if it's not a hell yes, then it should be a no. Yeah. So it's the same for me as well in that sense.
You also touched on something which I find amazingly insightful. You said when you're running a business, you need to be able to identify the fluff,
Yes.
cut it out. What should a new business owner identify as fluff in your experience?
Oh gosh. See, I can only think of I can think of the important things that you need to be focusing on. Sales and marketing, definitely. You need to be focusing on your sales, getting more clients, getting more leads, and converting them into clients, and also marketing, because no one's gonna be able to call or ask for your service unless they know that you exist. And so those are the two key things, especially when you're just starting, that you need to focus your efforts on. Yeah, all the other things kind of comes around, like, you're talking about finance and operations. All those things will come along as you grow the business a lot bigger. And the more time you spend on your business, the more you can see how things operate, and then you can start creating procedures around it. Oh, I don't know. Fluff could be like, playing around with your website, changing the photo again, changing the font, focusing too much on the aesthetics too much. So all these little inconsequential things that's not gonna move, or it's not gonna be income producing in your business. I would say put that aside first. If you think it's really important and you need to get it done, maybe get someone else to do it. So I'm a huge advocate for outsourcing if you can. Yeah, so that you're focusing on doing things that are really important to the business.
The velocity of insights you're giving me is amazing. You phrased it as if it's not moving the needle. And I think that's something that lots of people get distracted by. You look at aesthetics, you look at other things you like, but they might not be moving the needle. Let me confess to something else. When running business, I always think I can do this. I can work really hard. I can put the kids to bed at 8 o'clock, and from 8 to 12, I can edit. I'm not the best editor. There are editors that are much better than me. Tell me about your journey with getting a staff member, because a lot of us get stuck in, am I making enough money? Can I pay that person's salary? Am I compromising on my business revenue and profitability? But you don't have the foresight to see how much time you're saving, how much more critical needle moving activities you can focus on.
Yes.
What was your journey like getting that staff member?
Oh gosh, I think especially when you first start as a founder, you build your own business. It's like a baby, and it's very hard to share this baby with someone else. And I think you can get really precious about how you do your business as well. And so for me, I actually had to overcome that mindset of letting go. I think a lot of people have problems letting go, or even small parts of the business, to someone else, because they're afraid that the other person is not going to perform it to the level that they want. I always say that, they're not going to be able to do that until you hire them and train them to do the stuff that you want them to do to the level that you expect. And so, honestly, I actually had to read a lot of books around this. I had to read a lot of books to reframe my mindset around hiring. One of the books was Virtual Freedom, I think it was, because I was looking into hiring a virtual assistant, and I wanted to understand what I need to be thinking about, how they can be helping me. And then I also read this book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called Who, Not How, about how, if you really want your business to grow, you need a team of people, and that you need to think about who is going to help you with this rather than how you're going to be doing it. Because I don't have all the skills, and I don't have all the time to develop all these skills to be able to run the business. But there are already people who love doing all these other things. Some of these things I don't like doing too, like all the admin, or even social media posting is not a big strength of mine, but I do it because it is a necessary evil in that sense. But for me, I think the threshold was broken when I made my first hire with my virtual executive assistant. And, it was very interesting. It was just a LinkedIn message. She messaged me, and then we set up a time to have a chat and have a little interview. I liked what she was doing. I think she had a good background as well. And so I was like, oh, let's just give it a go. She had a trial period as well where we could just test it out and see how we work together. And she has been the best hire I've ever made. And honestly, I mean, you talk about money, right? Whether you get the money to hire. And honestly, I actually hired her from my profits to begin with. She wasn't part of my expense account yet. But then I found that even though I was paying her out of my profit, the more time passes, I actually can start paying her from my expenses. And that's because she has freed me up to be able to do other stuff that is more important to me. So I'm able to spend more time creating shows, and doing things that only I can do best. And I think by letting her deal with all the little things around the business, that I'm in, the social media, it freed my mind to be able to be even more creative and innovative. And I think that is the most important thing, the most precious thing that you can do as a founder, as a CEO, is that time to be able to think strategically and creatively around the business.
When you speak of creating a show, beyond joy, over and above the joy you bring, what else do you deliver to your audiences?
Ooh. I think I'm a teacher at heart. I was a lecturer at university, the whole time I was in university. And I just love teaching, and I love to be able to help people learn as well. And so when I do my science shows, for example, it's fun because I've got all these fun balloons that I show children and engage them into the show. But then as part of that, I'm also teaching them something about whatever it is that I'm showing them. And for me, I think there is great power in being able to capture a child's attention, especially in this digital age where they probably love looking at screens and devices. Having this real life interaction where they are not only just engaged visually, but they are also pulled into a story about something interesting, something sciencey, and something that they can take back and share with others as well. And so for me, being able to merge the balloons and science together was a great I think that actually for me is a sense of joy as well, a great joy for me too. And I feel it's also very linked to what I'm called to do, and really something that I feel is now my purpose in life. And I'm very thankful that I'm able to do this, starting from very humble beginnings, from my daughter's childcare, just doing a very rough show at in their childcare, to doing something at Floriade. And I think there is value in being able to not just entertain children, but to educate them as well.
I want to talk about perceptions now. A classically trained scientist, an academic, somebody who has a TED Talk. I don't have $100,000 to hire Dr. Clone to do.
I'm not that expensive.
To do balloon twisting. Let's talk, because I don't want to date this also. Let's talk ballpark average pricing so we can break that perception. What does ballpark average pricing look like?
Well, it depends on the service, I guess.
So there is a group of young people that the parents would like to engage their minds in something sciencey, something fun, that will also slowly increase their attention span.
Yeah.
What would a 20-minute show look like?
Yeah. So I guess I've got a few shows, and it depends on the audience, number of children, all those sort of things. But if we talk about schools, let's talk about schools, because it would be most relevant to schools in terms of the teaching and learning environment. So like I've got my Twisty Science show, which is based on my children's book called What Makes You Unique. And this show, I introduce DNA and genetics to children. And so this show, I actually spend hours creating the props for this show. We have, people of different hair colors, skin color, and then we also have the DNA, chromatin. This is a different version of the chromatin. And also make like a balloon microscope as well. So there's a lot of different balloon props workshops that I slowly bring out to try and engage the children. They like the element of surprise. So I do like to include a bit of surprise in there. And so this is actually a 30-minute show, and most of my shows are 30 minutes because I find that that's a sweet spot for children to be able to be engaged and to stay engaged for that length of time. And my starting price for most of my shows will be $600 upwards.
That's fantastic. That's a great entry
Mm.
to be able to build that trust with the community and grow from them. Because children engage really, really well with things that they like.
Yes.
And they will give you that instant feedback about what elements that they really love. We spoke about saying no. Now let's speak about saying yes. What are the opportunities you have received through balloon artistry, and what are some of those opportunities that you received and said yes to before you fully believed that you were ready?
Oh, the first one would be the National Gallery one, and so that's when I was just new into balloon twisting. I was just making small balloon sculptures, and I had this opportunity to create this balloon display for the National Gallery, and it was a big display, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll just say yes first, and then figure it out after. And honestly, I've actually been doing that a lot throughout my business journey, because sometimes people will ask me for things that I've never done before. But for me, if I have an inkling of how to do it, or inkling that I think I can do this, I'll just say yes. And the reason why I do that is because firstly, I do like a challenge, and secondly, I believe I am resourceful, and I know that I can figure things out. So even with the Floriade show, I didn't actually have a show that was prepared for it. So the Great Pollinator Show was the show that I prepared for, that I performed at Floriade. And when I made the proposal, there was not even a script for that show. But I developed it as I go and refined it. I did a rehearsal and then performed it on the day. I think sometimes it's a matter of having the courage to try something that you've never tried before. And that's really how I got into balloon twisting, really. It's like, I've not done this before, but it's okay. Let's just figure it out.
Because your love list, tell me 3 limiting beliefs you have in your business and tell me how you overcame them.
Circling back to, I guess, that first one that you've mentioned before, which is I'm not enough. And I think that's definitely one that I had to work on really hard to overcome, because after every show, after twisting, when I first started, I'll be like, oh gosh, I could have done that better. That didn't turn out very well. It's like, oh gosh, I suck. We say that to ourselves a lot, but I think we have to be kinder to ourselves. And for now, now I've really reframed that. They say that I am enough. And I think when you reflect back a lot on what you have done in the past, you will see that you have actually achieved quite a lot in your journey. And we have to make sure that we take credit for all the times that we have done well in our lives. And so that's one. Another one is, it relates back to the building of the business. And for me is, I'm building the business too slowly. Because we have this grand goal that by this year, I'm going to earn this much. I would have done X amount of whatever, shows or things like that. But for me, I guess I had to reframe that to say that I'm building my business sustainably, because I have, 3 kids, I have a family, I'm still working as well. And like you said, we've talked about how limited time is. And so I think what is more important is understanding what your limits are in some ways, and also knowing that it is better to build slowly and sustainably than to push yourself to work so hard that you burn out. Because, when you burn out, you're no good to anyone. You have a family, you cannot take care of them because you're burnt out. And if you're burnt out, you don't feel like doing your business. So it kind of just falls apart when you're not taking care of yourself in what you want to achieve as a goal. So for me, I think what was important is understanding that, I am doing, as long as I'm taking these steps, I'm taking action every day to move myself closer to my goal, that is considered a success. Oh my gosh, pricing. I'm sure businesses love talking about pricing. Oh, pricing is a hard one. It is a hard one. And that's why it was interesting that you asked me that question about that pricing, because when you first start, you undervalue yourself so much, you undercharge. And I've got to the point where I think I'm one of the more higher paid kids, balloon twisters in Canberra. But that's because I know that I bring value, and there's no one else in Canberra that I know that can do the balloons that I do. And so, it was a journey. Like, I started quite cheap, but then you kind of have to build that up. And that belief around that was, I'm not worth I'm not worth that much. I think that is the belief that surrounded it a lot. Even now, I still have that challenge of thinking I'm not worth that much, even though my pricing has increased. But you have to think about how people are going to perceive your pricing. And if you undercharge yourself, they're going to undervalue what you give. And so I think, it's a lesson that I'm still learning. But I think it's an important journey that all business owners have to face in terms of understanding the value that they bring and to be able to price that value to match how they're going to serve their clients.
When you do your balloon artistry and balloon shows, you're merging science, technology, education, fun, and because you have a background as a lecturer, teacher, how do you structure learning into the shows?
All teachers love this question. I mean, through my teaching training, I did do graduate certificate in teaching as well, for university teaching at least. And we talk a lot about learning outcomes. And so for me, in terms of structuring my shows, one of the things that I do like to keep in mind is what is the overarching take-home message. Especially for children, I think you don't want to overload them with too much information. But then, you want them to have a central message that they understand and that they can take home with them as well. So for me, it's, if you think about the Twisty Science Show, or maybe the Foodie Show. The Foodie Show is a good one, a good example as well. So I've recently developed this show called Foodie Fun Play. And it was developed in collaboration with Associate Professor Ekavi at the University of Canberra. And the idea of the show was actually to use balloon fruits and vegetables to encourage children to eat more fruits and vegetables. Yeah. So I think there's a huge public health initiative around nutrition, and one of it includes really educating children about healthy food and making good choices when it comes to eating. And so with this one, for me, what was important was to really have. I mean, we have evidence-based strategies around this as well. So, working closely with Akavi, we decided that, okay, we're going to talk about these 4 vegetables and 1 fruit, because essentially that's what we need the children between age 4 to 8 roughly to be taking every single day. So we try and, have that in place. And then within for each of those vegetables, we want to kind of highlight what is it that is special about them, and how is it good for you as well. And so, I do that for every single one. But at the end of the show, I actually bring everything together as well. So to have a little pop quiz for them, and to sort of help jog their memory about what they have learned, and to put it out in a visual way. So I have this like big plate with little plates, but each of the little plate relates to each one of the fruit. But what is good about each of the fruit, and then we ask them, okay, so we have folate here. So which fruit or vegetable is full of folate? And then they have to pick it up and then interact with it. Now the other thing is we've got this facts or information that we want to convey, but we need to convey it in a way that is fun for the kids. And so what I did with this is, usually I try and introduce or incorporate a storytelling element around this. And for the show in particular, I actually introduced Bob the caterpillar. So Bob the caterpillar is this big caterpillar who is very hungry, And he's not just hungry, he's actually hangry. So he's hungry and angry. So they actually learn a new word as well. And that's the other thing I like about, with the shows is to also incorporate literacy elements to it. So I actually have words printed out. And every time I bring out, either a fruit or something that's relevant in terms of science, I have them printed out and spelled out so they can see visually what the word looks like too. So really improving that literacy around there. But coming back to the storytelling element is, I've got Bob, he's hungry, so we have to feed him all this good, healthy food. And so first, we start with maybe tomatoes. And what I do is I actually get the kids to get a balloon tomato, and feed Bob. Now, kids love it. They absolutely love it. Everyone wants to feed Bob. But I only have 5 pieces of fruit. So I think being able to incorporate that engagement and interactivity also helps children to learn better and really retain more of that information. So, when it comes to storytelling with children, you want to definitely make it engaging, make it visual, make it colorful, and in some ways unexpected as well. I say unexpected because part of the story of, eating healthy is also the fact that all the fruits and vegetables give us fiber. And fiber is very important for us to have a good digestive system, which means having healthy poo. And so Bob actually poops at the end. And kids just absolutely love it and find it super hysterical when the caterpillar poops. And I would say that would be something that we'll definitely remember from the show.
I was going to say all good teachers have pop quizzes, but you have something even better. You have that knack for storytelling that children remember, because that little unexplained, unexpected moment also engages them. You've done a couple of things in your life, if not more, that require you to have a beginner mindset. If someone wants to start a business in the next couple of months and they're a bit scared to have a beginner mindset, what's a piece of advice you'll give them?
You always have to start small. And from what I gathered, I guess, with mentoring and helping other businesses start up, is that sometimes you might just need a bit more information to help you get going. Now, there is a challenge with that, is sometimes you can keep collecting information but not do anything with it, like you shared before. And so I think what is important is that you learn and do as you go. So let's say you are learning how to maybe set up social media. Okay, so you maybe did a little course or watched a YouTube video on how to do it. All right, once you've watched it, go and do it. Yeah, and so keep that learning and doing cycle, keep it going. Yeah, so having that learning and do. I mean, even now I'm still doing the learning and doing cycle as well, right? But it's that taking action is the most important thing. We can talk about it. We can watch lots of videos. It's like riding a bike. You cannot watch a person ride a bike and then go ride a bike. And, you have to do it yourself and think you can do it, but you actually have to do it yourself. Just like swimming, right? It's the same sort of thing. You can watch someone swim, but if you don't swim, then, you don't actually have that skill or you can't do it. So I think it's important to learn and do as you go. And the thing is, we actually have a lot of great support. There's in Canberra, there's the Canberra Innovation Network. If you're a social enterprise, there's the Millhouse Ventures as well. Even even small grassroots organization who are really trying to encourage enterprising people to come up and start their own business. I think there's support there available, and so reach out to these people to help you at least get started, maybe with a business plan or just to help you keep you accountable as well. Because sometimes I think when we are left to our own devices, because we're not accountable to anyone, we don't actually take action. But when someone is keeping you accountable and they're checking in on you as to whether you're doing something, then you're more likely to take action as well. So having that community, I think, helps too.
You explain things so eloquently, something I'm slowly getting better at. But I wrote a definition for stupidity. And my definition for stupidity for me is if I keep listening to podcasts and not doing anything about it, then my stupidity meter is increasing. Because there's fantastic learning.
Yes.
The gap is the action. what's holding us back? And let's focus even more. What's holding really talented, capable women who are mothers sometimes?
Yeah.
What's holding them back from taking action?
The knowing doing gap is a big thing. Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of times people hold back from taking action is because they are afraid either of failing or they're afraid that they're going to succeed. And they kind of interrelate with each other, actually, the fear of failure and the fear of success. Like, with my Twistific business, which is the science education arm, I actually didn't really jump into it for a long time. I was doing my balloon business, it was going very well, but I really wanted to get into the science show side of things, but I held myself back because I don't know what it was. It was, it's a bit silly when you think about it, right? And now that I've jumped into it, like a lot of opportunities have just come along. And I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? And I think a lot of people think that as well. It's like, why didn't I just do this sooner? And so I think it's, if in order to overcome that, it comes back down to how you are talking to yourself. It comes back to your mindset, and what you think you're capable of. I think you're actually more capable than you think you are usually. And really, it's the fear of failing, I think, is a big one. And so, but in order to overcome that fear, you do have to have courage and take action to go past that fear. And I would say sometimes, it doesn't have to be something big. I reckon taking tiny steps is also good because at least you're doing something to move yourself closer to the goal or to starting that business, right? If you're not doing anything, then, you're just there. So it's important to just think about, okay, what is the smallest step that I can take now that can move me towards opening that dream business of mine? And don't worry about, how that's going to impact the family per se yet, because you're just starting. Nothing's happening yet. But as you go along, you will figure out strategies in order to work out how things are going to fit in with the family or with your work, and how you can manage things. But unless you get started, you won't really have an idea. So it comes back down also to that fear of uncertainty and of the unknown. And, human beings are wired not to go into the unknown, right? And so we have to be louder than that primal instinctive voice that's in us. And we are really the only ones who can do that because we have this brain, this amazing brain that is neuroplastic and is able to change that limiting belief from a disempowering one to an empowering one.
I love that. You spoke about how the brain works. When I connect that to a recent post you did on LinkedIn about the crowd size at Floriade, again, there are presidents who speak about crowd sizes that we don't fully believe. But you spoke about an attempt at a show that in your own definition might not have been super successful. How do we manage our perceptions better? And how do we work towards achieving stretch goals? Because they're not always the same thing. Like, we want to stretch goals, we want to grow things, but we also have to manage the perception that helps us not get stuck and keep growing.
Honestly, I think it's important to have goals that are bigger than what you think it could be. Who was it? I cannot remember who was it who said that. If you reach for the stars, if you don't get it, you might hit the moon. Yeah. And I think
I'm from Sri Lanka. Yeah. At least you'll end up on top of a coconut tree.
I love that. That is true. You need to jump high enough to that. Yes. Oh gosh. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that is part of the importance of growth, right? Because, we can set goals that are achievable. But where is the fun and challenge in that? Because you know how to do it already. So, there's not much growth that comes with achieving goals that you know how to do already. And so I think that's why it's important for people to have stretch goals, because you're actually pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And it is when you're out of your comfort zone that growth happens. So, if you're just if you're at a point where you're like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable, I know how to do this, it kind of becomes stagnant and stale as well. And I don't think it's a point where a lot of people should be. Although having said that, I know people are quite happy with mediocre achievements, if you want to call it achievements. But I believe that the human being have limitless potential. And unless we push ourselves beyond the limits of what we can do now, we're not going to be able to reach even close to the potential that we are made for.
In your journey of business and broadly in life, there have been many people like your husband who supported you through this journey, like your children that have understood what mommy is doing in this journey. If you could say a sentence or two to express gratitude to them, what would you say?
I mean, to my husband, I think words cannot express how much he loves me, to be able to let me, go on a TV show for 5 weeks, leaving him behind with the 3 kids. And, putting up with my crazy nights, working very late at night or going out and, serving other people. I think he's, I have huge gratitude for his patience and understanding, and his support for my goals and my dreams. And it's only because there's that mutual understanding, and also the many conversations that we've had in order to understand where we are with our family and how we want to move together as a family, as a unit, that I'm able to get to where I am at the moment. Yeah. And with my children, when they were young, it was tricky, because they were so physical, like they really needed a physical attention. But interestingly now, I think they need more emotional attention. It's in fact, I think they need me more. And I make sure that is part of how I structure, how I work as well. And so for me, I think it's my gratitude to them is for their understanding as well, and for their patience for when mom is not around, and that they understand that I don't know what it is, but they're like, oh yeah, mom's doing this thing. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Good on you, mom. and I think part of it is also important to show to my children that it's important to pursue your dreams and goals, and then as a result, hopefully I become a role model for them to be able to then have the courage to say yes to the opportunities that they want, and to go for what it is in life that really excites them and interests them, and is their purpose and calling too.
If someone listening wants to connect with you for mentorship, for learning to craft a engaging show together, how does somebody find you?
Well, you can just Google me. No, you can actually Google Dr. Chloe Lim and you'll find me. But you can find me on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out on a professional network, LinkedIn is a great place. It's just Dr. Chloe Lim. If you want to find out what I do in terms of my businesses, then it's Instagram and Facebook, and you can check out Giggly Wiggly Balloons for party entertainment services, and you can check out Twistific for science-based workshops and shows that I can bring to children in childcares or schools, or even corporate events and festivals.
Dr. Ferry, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for letting me send you a cold message on LinkedIn and wanting to connect with you and understand what you do. Thank you for the time you've spent and the amount of insights, background, wisdom, and actually, in my opinion, repeatable systems that you have been generous in sharing. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Avon, for having me. Thank you for letting me share my story too. So I appreciate the work that you're doing with this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. A huge thank you to the wonderful team at Doma Hotels for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. If you are looking for 5-star accommodation, wonderful event spaces, and carefully curated dining destinations, the Doma Hotels offers all of that for you.